Okay, thank you. Yes, that's the next meeting, 6/6. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Do we have roll call, Sandy?
Yes, we have Alyssa Hurd, Mary Taggart, Joe Leggett. I'm so focusing on that one. Sandy Slavin, Kenny Baptiste, Agent Dave Fichette, and Jim Smith.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to remind everybody this is being recorded for television. And I think first order of business, we'll do the continued hearing for the notice of intent for NBE Management Corporation, Kara JC Engineering, 3 Pine Needle Lane.
Are these new or,
Yes.
oh, they're new ones, okay.
Good evening, Brad Bertolo of JC Engineering.
Thank you. David?
Okay, this project site is at 3 Pine Needle Lane, and the project involves the construction of a single-family dwelling at this lot in the buffer zone to an isolated wetland. Again, this application is only being filed under the town's wetland bylaw, not under the Wetlands Protection Act. A 37 by 64-foot dwelling is proposed with attached garage at this site. We had continued this meeting because there was an issue with the wetlands line that had to be adjusted. Those adjustments have been made, and so the revised plan that you have does reflect the updates to the wetland line. There is a 30-foot minimum work area to the edge of the wetland. And so based on the revised plan that we have, I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions for this project. Again, only under the town bylaw.
Okay, you got anything to say?
That basically covers it.
Okay.
I have nothing.
Sandy?
Nothing, thank you.
Joe?
No questions?
Mary?
No question.
Elisa?
No, none.
Okay, anybody in the audience?
Seeing none, I make a motion to close the hearing.
Second?
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Further motion?
I make a motion, we approve the project with a standard order of conditions.
Second?
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you. Oh, you get to go home early.
Cool. Go back to work.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we have a continued hearing for Greg Glavin and Brewer Onset Bay Marina. Is anybody here for that? They requested a continuance till the next meeting.
Motion to continue to June 6th.
Second.
Joe's motion, seconded by Alicia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Okay, still got time to burn.
Minutes?
Okay, we can do that. What do you want to do, Buzzards Bay first?
Yep, they're here.
Okay, discussion, Buzzards Bay Coalition for the CR for Great Neck Road.
Yes, sir.
Step up and speak to the mic. Be happy to. David, you need to say anything, or should I let him take over?
I'll just briefly mention it, but he's going to do the talking. No, this discussion item is for a conservation restriction for Broad Marsh. And this is a conservation restriction that the town is being asked to hold. So Alan had been here previously to discuss this with us. There's been some changes to the language, and he'll describe what that is and ask for a vote from the commission on this issue.
Yes, thank you very much, Dave. Good evening, I'm Alan Decker with the Buzzards Bay Coalition, and as Dave mentioned...
Go ahead.
So, of course, as Dave mentioned, I have been in front of you previously on this proposed conservation restriction. The difference being that between the last visit and tonight's visit, we have received and you've been apprised of edits that the state conservation restriction reviewer needed to have in the document. So I provided you with a tracked version showing those edits. We did not find them to be onerous in any way, so we are accepting of them. I can tell you that they really don't affect the reserved rights that we were discussing previously that allow for amenable public access to the property and use for passive recreation. I would like to point out that the state reviewer did not like the use of what was labeled item 8 under reserved rights, and I had called reservation management. And these were all minimal improvements to the property, simply meant to enhance the public's use and enjoyment of the property along the lines of picnic tables. We had included some benches and signing and bounds to the property and site pervious fences. He just didn't like the way that that was phrased. So we actually worked around that, and I came up with what has been substituted in as paragraph number 9, public use and enjoyment amenities. He thought that was a great way to tackle this. So in effect, what I'm letting you know is that we got the same sort of flexibility to enhance for public use, just in a slightly different form. And we did move the ability to place a small land management storage shed up into reservation number 7. The only other large changes had to do with the state required different interpretation of archaeological investigation should that come to pass on the property, because a state grant program is helping with our acquisition of the property. State Conservation Partnership grant is helping make the acquisition, and so because of that, there was a substitution in the in archaeological investigations. I did inform the state reviewer that there was a request to have osprey pole inserted as a reserved right. He had no issues with that whatsoever, so we were happy to include that.
Thank you.
Oh, of course. No, it was a good suggestion, and we're glad to include that as a flexible use. And then simply the insertion at the very end of a paragraph involving site restoration if we do habitat management, and then following any applicable best management practices for any work that does more than a de minimis disturbance of the surface, of which we really don't anticipate much, because as I've told you in the past, what we anticipate here are a minimal public trail and potentially a parking area that would be unpaved. As you know, this 45-acre parcel is 43 some odd acres of salt marsh. So what we're really looking to do is make this available for kayakers and getting kids in our education program out to investigate the salt marsh and the like. So I don't want to take up any more time than is necessary. I am happy to answer any particular questions the commission has this evening, but I am formally this evening asking for you to vote to hold this conservation restriction over the property that we will acquire a little later, actually in June. And then, assuming a positive vote, I'll have a signature page that I would like to hand up and get signatures this evening. With that, I will entertain questions.
I have none. Sandy?
Have you had discussions with Mr. Bowen on this, our town attorney?
I have not.
Do you know if he's seen this?
I have not been asked to provide it to him.
Okay.
I expect that he will have an opportunity to review it, because after this evening, assuming now, I don't want to forecast, but if this goes well, we do need to be in front of the selectmen, and I expect there will be an opportunity for town council to review and opine at that time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nothing else?
Joe? No. Mary?
No question.
Elisa?
None.
Anybody in the public?
I make a motion that we accept and approve the Buzzards Bay Coalition Conservation Restriction on the Broad Marsh Great Neck Road, Wareham.
Second?
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you very much. At this time, I'll hand up the signature page. I'm a notary, so I'm
Thank you.
happy to notarize signatures.
Is this a new state review that you ran into?
Is it new? No, sir, it's not. This is part of the statutory process,
No, I mean
excuse me. Oh.
The person himself, was he?
The person himself is new, yes. He filled the position last fall. He's done a wonderful job of lessening the lag time in getting reviews done. As you might imagine, they see a lot of them because they come
Just
from.
getting pulled on verbiage like that, that's...
So
Hopefully he's continuing his education.
Understood, understood. There is so just so you know, there is sort of a starting point template that the state prefers everybody use. That's where we start, and then each project gets individualized. So, now, Dave, what I'd be happy to do is scan that and get it to you so that you've got it for your records. Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Very good.
Osprey's still learning how
Okay,
to
discussion of the
go nest on
controlled
top of
burn,
trees.
the Lyman Reserve.
Caleb Garone.
So I have three maps, or two different maps, so I guess if you guys can maybe share to kind of show the project area.
Okay. You want to speak?
No, I'll let Caleb take over. This, again, was the Lyman Reserve discussion we had talked about at the last meeting, relative to the controlled burn that they want to do at the property. So Caleb was good enough to come in and give an explanation of it and what's going to happen there.
Yeah, sure, so I just wanted to come in and kind of,
Just speak into the mic.
a little bit,
because
get a little closer.
You'll get yelled
Is that
at.
a little better? I just wanted to come in and kind of brief you guys on our plans for our habitat management at Lyman Reserve. So to give a brief history of what we've been doing and where we're at now is in 2015, we did a forest management plan for the whole of Lyman Reserve. That is in 3 towns, Wareham, Plymouth, and Bourne. Through that, we found that we had the potential for high-quality pitch pine scrub oak habitat. And so we were able to work with NRCS and Fish and Wildlife to secure grant funding to do forestry work to kind of remove some of the overstory white pines and allow for better pitch pine scrub oak habitat that will encourage New England cottontail and a whole suite of other rare and threatened species. So we have done the forestry work, and that was, again, mostly removing white pines, opening the canopy a bit, allowing more light to get down, to get some more of those shrub species we're trying to manage for. And then following that, what we're looking to do is conduct 2 prescribed fires within Wareham, and that would burn off some of the material and then kind of stimulate growth of those shrubby understory species that we're trying to manage for. So with this, so where we're at now is, so we have a prescribed burn plan that's been approved by the state. Our forest management plan that's also been approved through by the state, and then through the NRCS grant project kind of has been run by Heritage. And they've approved our plans for this. And so I just kind of wanted to, again, share with you guys and answer any questions specifically regarding prescribed fire, just if there are any concerns or any issues. So to explain the maps in front of you, the prescribed fires we're proposing to do One would be in stand 7 on the western side of the property, and then the other is stand 6 and 10. So those are the 2 burn days that we're hoping to do. And I guess, yeah, if there's any questions or any, I know this is something that we haven't done in this town before, but we have 7 other sites across the state where we do conduct prescribed fires. We're actually planning to have one in Mashpee next week, as long as the weather permits. But yeah, something that we do. We generally have 3 to 4 a year, and it's all depending on based on weather conditions and what that allows.
And what's the time frame you think this would occur?
So we would be hoping to do this either sometime in the month of June or in the fall. And that's during the prescribed burn windows that are approved by the state. So we have a DEP air quality permit that allows prescribed burning during those times. And then we use a contractor, Joel Carlson, who does prescribed burns kind of all through the Cape, the islands, and throughout New England as well. A very respected burn boss that we contract out to run our prescribed fire.
So,
Jim? No. Sandy?
How much damage was done in March with our storms?
So
You said you were taking down white pine. I figured if you wait long enough, nature would take care of it.
certainly, well, it's interesting. The northern half of the property is a large white pine plantation. That's how it was historically managed. And we haven't touched that yet. And actually, it's amazing. A lot of those white pines have fared pretty well through that. Even with the canopy thinning and allowing more wind load on, some of the trees, we only lost probably a dozen or so trees within those burn units. Which
That's amazing. Yeah.
that's about 25 acres worth. So they responded pretty well to the storms.
Yeah, because the town's Minot Forest lost much, much more.
Yeah.
It was just brutal.
And I think it was honestly kind of micro bursts and kind of, again, we had some interesting storms where the wind direction was coming from different directions than it normally does.
Yes, it was odd. I found a white pine that was twisted
Yeah.
before it fell. So I'm saying winds probably were changing in direction. What does the Onset Fire Department say?
So we're working with the Onset Fire Department, so we've been in communication with them, and they'll be providing resources and also some staff to assist in the prescribed fire. But they're familiar with prescribed fire, and they're excited about us having it on our property and are happy to participate with us.
And how will you communicate to the neighborhood?
So we use reverse 911.
Yeah.
So that allows us to basically place kind of automated phone calls to folks in the neighborhood. And within our burn plan that I didn't bring a copy of this evening, but I have sent to David, it kind of outlines the exact protocol for how we communicate and how we communicate with neighbors regarding this.
Thank you.
No question.
Joe? Mary?
No question.
Alicia?
And then I had one more question that was a complete aside from this, but it was while I was here, just kind of trying to understand where you guys stand on something. So one thing we're looking at, not in the near future, but basically in the mouth of Red Brook, we have quite a bit of Phragmites, an invasive species, present there. One reason we haven't tried to tackle that is just because it's within 3 different towns, so it would take going to 3 different conservation commissions to talk about management practices. If we were hoping to if we were hoping to try to move forward with that project, just curious, would it be something we would be filing an RDA for trying to do the control there? So the basic method that we'd be using would be cut and drip. So basically be cutting the stems and individually dripping like a drop of glyphosate herbicide within like each stem. So very isolated, wouldn't be spraying anything. Is that something that, again, you would want us to file for.
Yeah, typically, we see notice of intents for those
It would
projects.
be an NOI
Yeah.
for anything within that. Okay.
Right.
Just wanted to kind of understand the process in case we decided to do that at a later date.
Is that the typical process for getting rid of Phragmites?
So there's
Cutting and poison?
Yeah, there's many methods. I mean, chemical control's the most often used method. Oftentimes it's chemical controls via like kind of spraying, like a mist blower, like spraying, quite a bit of herbicide within a stand. That's not the way we prefer to do it. We like to be quite a lot more targeted. So we're just targeting that specific species and really individual plants. So we're not affecting other plants within that
Any
area.
attempt of going after the root systems?
It's
It's the tougher one.
Yeah, the roots really spread out and can go, I think it's like something like 12 feet or something like that, like from the plant. So there's really no way to go after the root systems would actually do quite a bit more damage to the stream banks than using chemical control, because you'd be creating a lot more disturbance within that, trying to do it that way. It's a tough plant to control, especially because it is always within kind of wetland areas.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody in the audience have any questions? All right.
All right, well, thank you for coming in. Appreciate the
Yeah,
update.
thanks for having me. And again, as we continue to do any other management within the resource area, we do want to keep you all up to date with what we're doing. And if you have any questions at any point, David and I have been in communication, and don't hesitate to funnel questions through him or get my contact information through him and reach out directly. He'd be happy to answer or have any conversations regarding any of that. So thank you very much.
Okay. I know the fire department will be very happy because that's nice free training for them.
It's free training, and I mean, it works for the habitat, and it also works for public safety.
Yep.
By putting in the fire breaks we put in, if we do have like a lightning strike wildfire or something like that, it allows our fire department to get in there. When they come out, they can get familiar with where the fire breaks are, so it's great for the neighborhoods
Yep.
as well, beyond just the habitat management, so, exciting stuff.
Okay. All right, I think we're ready for our first.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. On Wednesday, May 16th, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Carrie and Tom Cotter, 12 Anthony J. Morin Drive, Stony Point, New York, 10980, to repair and replace back deck and replace and extend side deck face for property located on Assessor's Map 38, Lot 516, 6 Larch Street, Wareham.
You here for this? Okay, can you come up to the table and sit down and speak into the mic and just state your name for the record?
My name's George Mather, M-A-T-H-E-R.
Okay, David will highlight and then we'll continue from there. Do you have your abutter cards, abutter
Oh,
notifications?
yes.
We need those.
Thank you. So this project site is at 6 Larch Street in the Parkwood area, and the project involves the reconstruction and expansion of a deck and the construction of a new deck, and this is in the buffer zone to a coastal bank and also within a coastal flood zone. There's an existing 12 by 12 foot deck that's to be removed and replaced with a new 12 by 19 foot deck. This proposed work does extend into the 30-foot no activity zone, so I would have to recommend that this expansion not be approved and that the deck only be allowed to be replaced within its existing footprint for that particular deck. The second deck is a 14 by 19-foot deck proposed, and this is approximately 54 feet from the top of the coastal bank. So that is in an area that's acceptable for a new deck. The decks would be supported on sonotube footings. Hay bales are proposed between the work and the resource area as indicated on the plan. So I would recommend the approval of the project with the one condition that the one deck only be expanded into its, or rebuilt in its existing footprint and not expanded as shown on the plan.
You have anything to add?
No, that's perfect.
Okay. Jim?
No.
Sandy?
Yes, I did visit the site. There's an outdoor shower there. Will that be removed?
The shower that's existing now will be new. It'll be taken off and put a new one in the same footprint.
Am I missing it on the drawing? I don't see it.
It's actually, it's the white part of the deck on the right corner facing the deck from the river. The right rear corner. It's extended past the house, that's the shower. See where it's white?
Yeah, but that shows me the construction, expansion of the full deck all the way out. I guess I expected a line to tell me where this shower,
That shower is over here.
but the shower isn't as wide as the new deck? I guess I'm confused. I'll try again. We have an existing deck and you want to expand it by moving it toward the coastal bank into the 30-foot no-work zone. There is a playground piece of equipment there. Will
Yeah.
that be removed?
Yes.
Does the edge of the playground equipment indicate where you wanted the deck to go?
No,
Or
the
the
deck-
deck will only be as wide as the shower?
The deck will only be as wide as the shower.
Now, that shower sits on just wooden pylons on concrete pads.
Yes.
Will that continue to be that way?
No, there'll be sonotubes on that, the extension of the 4x4 going down from the shower. There'll be a sonotube holding the 4x4.
Okay, what I'm looking for is that I don't think I'm not willing to expand the deck into the 30-foot no-work zone. But that's what this plan shows. Do we want another plan, Mr. Bichette?
No,
well,
the existing deck that's there now will just be, the tops will be removed, the stringers that are holding the deck, the ones that are not properly strengthened, we're going to replace. We're going to replace all those stringers and put in a new top on the existing deck that's there now. The new deck will not, as he said, will not be infringing on anything, but the deck that's we're taking apart will only be replaced as is.
Okay, but right now, there is no sonic tube under that shower.
That's true.
So do you plan to put one in?
Yes.
And only one?
No, each corner. The part that's attached to the deck will not have sonotubes. The outside, where the 4x4s go down, will have sonotubes.
Under the plan I'm looking at, I only see one sonic tube under the position where the shower will be.
Why don't you have him come up and point out where this is, so that way you're both
Okay.
clear on what you're talking about.
See, the shower is not listed on there at all.
It's not listed, right. It will be in this corner. But the stringers will be going all the way through this whole
But
thing.
this sonic tube, this will not be allowed.
Oh, that will not be allowed.
We're saying this deck cannot be expanded further from where it is, because you're into the 30-foot no-work zone, which is why I'm concerned about the shower having a sonic tube put there when it's you're not gonna be allowed, I don't think you'll be allowed to do this section. Mr. Bichette, what do you, am I getting that point?
Yes, that's what I recommended, yes.
So we're saying this is a no-no.
Okay. This
Just-
existing deck here will just be redone.
Yes.
And where will the shower go?
And the shower will
Yeah,
go
so-
where?
So your sonotubes that are here would be actually.
There's no sonic tube here.
Right, that he's planned, that he wanted to put there, it'd be over here, because that'll be the end of the deck.
If it's necessary here, we will put the sonotube.
That's the end of the deck.
This one over here.
Should we ask for, I would like to have an updated,
That's up to the commission. If you would rather continue the hearing and get a revised plan, that's up to the board, or you can approve the project with conditions. So it's up to how the board wants to handle it.
because if this is not extended, I would expect to have a sonic tube probably put in this point right here and one over here, and
This one is gonna be eliminated.
Only the deck.
so then what happens to
Right
the
in the
shower?
existing area.
It will not be existent, we'll remove it
We remove it, okay.
completely. The only thing that will be done is redo the old deck.
Which has sonic tubes on the on the corners, yes.
And there will be no shower.
Okay, thank you.
Joe?
questions?
Mary,
No question, that answered it.
Elisa?
So am I correct? that
This is
you
gonna be
decided
eliminated.
that you have no shower for this
There will be no
project?
shower, there's an inside shower. There's a shower right
Okay,
there.
none.
Okay, anybody in the public? No? How do you want to handle this?
As I said, it's up to the commission. If you would prefer to see a revised plan, that's your call to make, and we could continue the hearing for that, or you could approve it with conditions to say that only the existing deck can be replaced in its same footprint,
In a revised plan supplied.
something to that effect, yes, if that's what the commission wants.
I'm comfortable with just conditioning this,
All right,
get it going, so we can get it done before the summer gets here.
So if that's the case, you'd issue a negative determination number 2 with conditions.
ready?
Anybody in the audience?
Nope.
Oh, I make a motion, we close the hearing.
Second.
Motion by Sandy, seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Ms. Bichette, can we approve it tonight with a stipulation that a new plan will be presented so that we have a form that we can identify for certification of compliance? Is that a way?
Well, there wouldn't be a certificate of compliance with this application because it's just a request for
Okay.
determination.
All right, then I make a motion, we issue a -2 for this project with a stipulation that the existing deck is replaced within its own footprint, it is not expanded, and that the outside shower be removed,
In the place,
and the playset.
move that out of the work area.
Sandy's motion,
Second.
seconded by Joe and Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. You understand what happened, right?
Yes,
Okay.
you approved it with no shower and just replacing the existing deck.
Yeah, move the place set out of that 30-foot no activity zone.
Exactly.
You'll have your hammer out anyway, so.
Yeah, see, Mr. Bichette, before you start anything? See
Excuse-
Dave before you start anything, to make
Call
sure
him
everything's...
before you start construction, just so he
Okay,
can make sure.
okay,
Here she is.
Thank you.
okay. Do you have to sign off on something? Should I see you tomorrow?
Yeah, if you come in the morning, we can handle it.
Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Thank you.
For your time.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
Okay, next hearing. We can read it in and then we'll continue it.
Nothing's gonna be continuing, Ken?
O'Brien.
Yes.
That's right.
Oh, notice of public hearing Wednesday, May 16th, 2018, at 7:15 PM on the request for determination of applicability for Frank O'Brien, 35 Lydia's Island Road, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to remove an existing pier and floats for property located at Assessor's Map 21, lots 1017, 1018, 1020, 35, Lydia's Island Road, Wareham.
Concrete.
Okay, is anybody here for that hearing? They've requested a continuance to June 6th.
Make a motion, we continue the hearing until June 6th.
Second.
Sandy's motion, Alicia's second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you. Next hearing, please.
Notice of public hearing, Wednesday, May 16th, 2018, on the request for determination of applicability for Frederick Robinson in care of Churchill Engineering, 18 Main Street Extension, Plymouth, Mass. 02360, to install new foundation to an existing home for property located Assessors Map 53, lots 40 and 42, 12 Harding Ave, Wareham.
Good evening. My name is Fred Robertson.
Thank you. David will highlight, and we'll go from there.
The project location is 12 Harding Ave, which is in the Briarwood area, and the project involves elevating a dwelling within a coastal flood zone. The existing dwelling, which is 24 by 34 feet in size, is to be elevated, and a new foundation is to be constructed underneath it, and this is within flood zone AE elevation 15. And this project is being done to bring the structure into compliance with the building code for the flood zone that it's in. The new foundation would be a poured concrete foundation. There's really no change to the footprint of the house. The project is not in the buffer zone to any other resource areas, so I would recommend the approval of the project with negative determination number 2.
Okay, you have anything to add?
No, he summed it up perfect.
Okay. Jim?
No, thank you.
Sandy?
If I call, that house is on cinder blocks, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So up it goes, the cinder blocks are removed, or will you, I just don't want, what do you plan to do with the used cinder blocks once you remove them?
They'll be disposed with the other contractor as Ralph Reed Construction.
So they won't
It's their
stay on
responsibility.
property
They will
long?
not stay on the property, no. They have to build around it, not around it, but so they have to remove it in order to put the foundation in place. So they're lifting the house first, and as soon as
Yep.
they lift the house, and they go in, they do the excavation, pull out the old foundation, the blocks, and then we go underneath and we start shoring the house out, and then the foundation is poured, and the house is dropped.
Oh, that's a lot of stuff to remove in the cellar, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It really, actually, it's only about a 2.5 to 3 foot crawl space, so the
Oh,
block
so
wall
there
is
isn't-
only, that's it. It's really small,
So how much higher will the house be off the ground?
7 feet,
7 feet.
yeah. 15 plus 1 based on the code and the topology plan that we had done. So it's a big lift.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No
Joe?
questions.
Mary?
No question.
Alicia? The public? No.
Seeing no one, I make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
I make a motion, we approve the project with a -2.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Mr. Bichette, before you start any work. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have to come in to see you for the certification?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Notice of public hearing Wednesday, May 16th, 2018, the request for determination of applicability for Wareham Land Trust in care of Michelle Krauser, 114 Front Street, New Bedford, Mass. 02740, to create a trail for property located at Assessor's Map 86, lots 1,000 and 1,023 Faring Hill Road, Wareham.
Yeah, you gotta identify yourself for the record, please.
Michelle Krauser with Wareham Land Trust.
You have your
Certified.
green cards, I see them in your hand there, so,
John Browning with the Wareham Land Trust.
okay.
Thank you.
David will highlight, and we'll go from there.
This project site is within the Ferring Hill Conservation Area. The project involves the placement of elevated bog boards within bordering vegetated wetlands as part of a hiking trail project at this site. An old logging access is being used as part of the hiking trail project within this town-owned conservation area. A new section of the trail within the site is being located within the old logging access trail. And part of this trail is within a wetland, and the project is to install elevated bog boards to provide a walking surface within the section of trail that would be too wet to hike during certain times of the year. The bog board section would be approximately 75 feet or so in length. The materials would be carried to the site and installed by hand. There's no trees that would need to be cut for this project. Additional sections of trail work would be in the buffer zone to the wetland, and the other trail work simply involves trimming back branches and so forth within the proposed trail corridor. So I would recommend approval of the project with a negative determination number 2.
You have anything to add, you'd like to say,
Nope, that's it.
I have nothing.
Jim? Sandy?
Does that bridge exist now?
It's not there yet.
So it's the bog boards and the bridge, and this is the connecting to the Westgate property?
Yes, but the bridge is not included in this RDA.
Okay, so the bog boards, I can't say that, those boards.
Yes.
On a side note, will the parking for Ferring Hill be cleaned up? Because right now it's just full of weeds, right?
That's the hope,
That's the hope.
yes.
Well, there's processed gravel there, stuff there that we had put there.
That parking area as is, though, is really not suitable to utilize. It's not the safest access point.
No,
and-
it's on a corner.
Yeah, so we're really not trying to promote parking there at this point in time. Down the road, we're hoping that we can get a larger space to create a better parking spot. But right now,
Right
I
now
don't
you're-
recommend.
Oh, you're not gonna use that?
not
So
as
you're
is.
really hoping that most of this trail work, they'll come out of the Westgate property to walk this trail?
Or park on one of the side streets in the neighborhood.
Okay.
How much damage did this area get from the storms in March? You lost a lot of trees, didn't you?
Yes,
A lot of trees.
yes.
We've been chainsawing
Significant
them up.
damage.
Yeah. Oh, I have nothing.
Joe?
Thank you.
No questions.
Mary?
No question.
Alicia?
None.
Anybody in the public?
Seeing none, make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? For the motion?
Make a motion, we approve the project with a -2.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next one.
Notice of public hearing Wednesday, May 16th, 2018, a request for determination of applicability for Wareham Family Dental, Inc., care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to reconstruct an existing commercial building and a new parking lot for property located on Assessor's Map 45, lots F46, F55B, and 1013, 4345 Sandwich Road, Wareham, Mass.
Hi, I'm Bill Madden from GAF Engineering here on behalf of Wareham Family Dental.
Okay. David? When you're ready?
So again, this project is at 43 and 45 Sandwich Road, and this application is being filed as part of the site plan review requirements for the zoning bylaw. The project is to reconstruct an existing commercial building and parking lot to be used as a dental office. This project is not within any area subject to Conservation Commission jurisdiction under any of the wetland laws. So therefore, we would issue a negative determination number 1 and number 6, which basically state that the project is not subject to our review. And again, this is a requirement of the zoning bylaw. When somebody does site plan review, one of the requirements is they either get a negative determination from the commission or an order of conditions that we approve the project. So in this case, they're simply trying to get us to issue a negative determination to satisfy that requirement.
Anything to say, Bill?
That's exactly the reason why Dave has it, 100%.
Okay. Jim?
Nope.
Sandy?
Green cards.
Green cards. Green
You
cards?
already got them.
You already
Got
got
'em?
them.
Okay. Believe it or not, I have no questions.
Trying to put me in
Okay.
shock here?
Joe?
I'm all set.
Mary?
No question.
Alicia?
Good.
Public?
Seeing no one in the audience, I make a motion, we close the hearing.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Make a motion, we approve the project with a -1 and 6.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Thank you.
Thanks.
You can go home.
No, I have the next one.
No, that's right. You might as well stay there then.
Notice of public hearing Wednesday, May 16, 2018. Notice of intent for the town of Wareham in care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to replace and maintain existing floats and gangway, associated water and electrical service installation, and add a reconfiguration zone for property located Assessors Map 1, Lot 1052B, 184 Onset Ave, Onset, Mass.
I'm Bill Madden from GAF Engineering here on behalf of the town of Wareham Harbor Master.
Okay. David's ready. Okay.
Says redoing it here. He needs it bad.
Kill that.
The project site for this application is the town pier in Onset, and the project involves the replacement of the floating dock system at the town pier, and this is within land under the ocean, within land containing shellfish, and also within a coastal flood zone. It's proposed to remove the existing floating pier system and replace it in the same general area with a new float system as depicted on the submitted site plan. The center docks of the float system are to be widened slightly compared to the existing structure, and this is to help accommodate new facilities that will be on the floating dock in terms of water and electricity, and also to provide for handicap access. The finger piers would also be modified slightly as shown on the site plan. Again, the system would exist within the same general area as the existing float system. A reconfiguration zone is depicted around the floating dock structure to indicate the limits of the float system and where future modifications might occur. Comments have been received from Mass Division of Marine Fisheries for this project, and they had no concerns with it. We did get a DEP file number for this project late in the day today. The only question I had for Mr. Madden was relative to the difference in the existing square footage compared to what's now going to be there. He did provide a sketch of what the existing float system is, so we could compare that to the new plan. But again, I really had no problem with the project. The only question I had was the square footage difference, and also, are all the pilings that are there going to be pulled and replaced, or are any of those going to be utilized as they currently are?
I think the goal with the piles is probably to replace them due to this
Okay.
past winter storm. I think that Gary is interested in replacing the piles as well.
Yeah, and that's fine. I have no problem. I just was
Yeah.
curious to know that, but that's fine. So, as far as the square footage difference, are these numbers here showing me that there's 1924 square feet total, or is that the difference? That's the total of the existing, it looks like.
That's the total existing that is there under the current license. On that highlighted plan that I gave you, what that plan illustrates is the Chapter 91 license that's in effect currently. The dotted lines that you see on that plan, those indicate the original, even the prior Chapter 91 approval that existed prior to the first modification, which is in color. So what we have is a situation where the license that's currently in effect occupies 1,925 square feet of water sheet. The proposed addition is going to occupy 2,493 square feet. It's roughly a 30% increase in square footage. Initially, we had, talked to DEP about trying to just amend the previous license, but, because it's a much less expensive process to go through, but where the square footage increased by more than 10%, they were reluctant to grant that and required us to file a new license application. So that's what we're presenting to you as part of this notice of intent, is the license application that we have submitted to DEP. So it is a 30% square footage increase over what currently exists. The length of the proposed docking facility is pretty close to what is there now. I think that we are going to probably be 3 feet further to the west than what we currently have. I think our dimension shows 137 feet from the face of the bulkhead. The plan that I presented to you, I think they dimensioned it a little bit differently. You'd have to look at the 120-foot float plus the 7 by 56-foot concrete float that's on the end of that. So that's 127 feet. And if you look where the gangway is that goes from the onset pier onto the floating dock, there's no dimension. So so it's roughly 10 feet. So we're right around 137. It might be in a little closer than that. I think we're going to be 3 feet further out, just due to the 10-foot wide float that we're looking at put at the end of our T versus the 7-footer that's currently licensed. So to me, we're going to be 3 feet further out than what the original license plan called. The original license plan doesn't give us a distance.
But just based on the dimensions that are shown, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that answers my questions. With that, I would recommend the approval of the project, as we do have a DEP file number with the standard conditions for pier installation. And if the commission has any other conditions they feel they want to see here.
Okay, anything else to add, Bill?
No, I'm good with that.
Jim?
I have a question. Is this a this year project or a next year project?
I thought it was going to be a this year project, actually, but I don't know if he's going to wait until next year. I think there's some funding that's been allocated for the onset pier, a study for that. So whether or not he puts it in this year, I'm not 100%. Initially, it was supposed to be done before the summer season.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see him actually get it done.
I know they just repaired the extending piece last weekend,
Yeah.
but you still can't go up there.
I think that the question is, how quickly can DEP turn around the Chapter 91 license? You know,
Yeah,
so
Get that.
that might be the
Could be
the
6
the
months.
overriding factor in the matter.
October.
It's next year. Okay. Sandy?
Yes, please, thank you. The existing piers, the existing pylons will all be removed.
That's what we're calling for, is for new
Okay,
green
so
hard piles.
all the machinery needed will come in off of a barge and all the work be done from the water side?
All the work will be done from the water side. We have adequate depth in the turning basin and just to the south side of the existing floating dock that's there to accommodate the barge and the construction equipment.
Will the barge be able to remove the existing piers?
Piles? Yep.
Piles and piers?
The floats?
The floats?
Yeah, yes.
So,
Be a
but
crane on that.
we have no increase in the number of boats that can be moored there, right? It's the
No, I
same
think we
number.
have the same number of slips. It's transient dockage also
Mm-hmm.
for the town. So there's a harbor master slip, there's some transient dockage, and there's also a pump-out boat that they keep there. So we're not adding additional slips.
During the year, I thought there were upwellers for his
His
oysters. Will that be there again? Or would that be accommodated with this?
I'm not certain on that, on the upwellers. I don't know the answer to that.
It's not really indicated on the plan that that's going to
No.
be there.
It's not.
If
Okay.
the first finger is still in the same spot as the new one, then that's where this.
I wonder, but that upweller covered a lot of ocean floor, because it was solid.
What was that?
Where the upwellers were, it was very wide and it cast a large shadow on the water, land under the water, whatever they call it. Land under the ocean.
The slip where the upwellers went still exists, the way it is.
Okay, so they could put the upwellers there as opposed to a boat there. Then the next slip was where they put their police boat.
The harbor master boat.
Yes. I think I'm done, thank you.
Joe?
No question.
Mary?
No question.
Alicia?
None.
Public? Okay.
Seeing none, I make a motion, close the hearing.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I make a motion that we approve with standard order of conditions for pier installation.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Now you can go home.
Bill, can you see that Gary gets this picture? Somebody fished
dead
on
fish.
there. They skin these suckers, they're not even 12 feet long,
12 feet?
12 inches long. I mean, those are so under, whether they're stripers or blues, I can't tell, but they certainly are tiny fish. So he probably should be aware that people are fishing and bringing in illegal size. But you'll probably see Gary before I would.
Yeah, okay. Looks like sea bass.
Then they're very tiny, aren't they?
They look real small, less than a 15-inch minimum size.
Also not disposed of properly either.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, thanks very much.
Okay, have a good night. Okay, we got some minutes. No? Oh,
You can ask him.
do you have something that you wish to address the board for? or-
11 Broadmarsh. Yes. Yeah, this was relative to,
Come on up.
This was relative to a certificate of compliance request that came in front of us a little while back, and when I went out there, there was something that wasn't quite right with regards to a retaining wall that had been built, because they placed some fill there, and the retaining wall really wasn't constructed in a way that was sound, and it's already starting to, give a little bit in terms of it's not level. And so I had contacted the owner to explain that, and that's why we haven't issued the certificate of compliance yet or recommended that that be done. But my suggestion to him was that the retaining wall is going to need to be rebuilt and done correctly. But the retaining wall wasn't a feature on the original plan that we approved. So he didn't want to go in and necessarily build it and then have us say, well, you didn't have that on the plan initially, so therefore there's an issue. So he's trying to get basically guidance as to how the commission wants to see this piece handled. I don't necessarily have a problem with the retaining wall being there, and he can explain maybe why that was done, because I think the commission should get that kind of an explanation. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Timothy Orwig. I live at 11 Broadmarsh Avenue. We took down a seasonal and built a permanent home on the site, and you've seen the documents pass through before. On the we've had problems working between the surveyor and our builder, and the deck didn't get put on the original set, and that was added, and that went through. The problem came that the footings were not accounted for in the height of the lot, and we told our builder, and the builder said, well, I was following what the surveyor said, so it's not my problem. And the surveyor said, well, that's not our problem either. And so we were kind of left in the middle. So it was like, we've got to get all these other things finalized. How can we do that? So we put in sand, a layer of, what's the fabric? Landscaping fabric and gravel, and we put some blocks that we got from Home Depot around it, just because kind of everyone else had left us, and we didn't really know what else to do to finish the project, and so I'm looking for some guidance about how we can resolve things and move forward.
Okay.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, this retaining wall was not a feature that originally was shown on the plan, but I don't think it's necessarily a problem for it to be there where it's been constructed. But because it has not been constructed in a sound way with probably the appropriate materials and whatnot, it's starting to, sink and be off level. So it just needs to be redone in the same footprint, but with, sound construction methodology and materials, and then I think it will be okay. It's only maybe this high, really. It's just 2 courses high, I think it is. So it's not a significant structure, but it's really not in a shape that I'm going to want to recommend to the board that we issue a certificate of compliance for, because I think in 2 or 3 years, it's going to start to cave in the way it is, Okay. So my recommendation is that he needs to, if it's going to be allowed, then he needs to be rebuild it. Now, if the board wants to take a run down there and take a look and then call me and tell me what your thoughts are, if you agree with what I'm saying as far as allowing it to be there, then maybe that's the route to take. So, like I said, I don't think he wants to go to the expense of rebuilding it until he's comfortable with the commission being comfortable with it being there.
But it's already been the area's already been worked on. It's not as if it's a virgin area where where the new wall that he put up, so.
That's right. And-
Already, you know,
Right, and in fact, before he did anything with the wall anyway, the site had already, there was a house there, it was already, a utilized space. It's
Right.
not a virgin piece of land, it was already an existing home with a yard and whatever. So, but again, because it wasn't a feature on the plan that we approved, I needed to bring this to the commission's attention, and when I saw the condition it was in, I was like, I can't recommend approving this the way it is.
Okay, you got any more questions?
no, I think that things have been done in good faith with him, and it seems to me that it's an area that's already been compromised.
Okay. Mary?
Just needs to be, rebuilt in the proper way so that it's safe.
Joe?
See Dave.
That's what I was gonna say, but.
Well, I wanted to know if commission members do want to go by and look at it, that's great. If you don't, then I'll just direct them to deal with it.
No, I said that was basically what you said already.
Yeah.
I mean, we can drive by if we want, but I think you can give him the direction he needs on this.
Yes, I support Mr. Bichette's recommendation on this project.
Yeah, myself also. How about you, Jim?
Nothing.
Same thing. Okay. Well,
So we will
that's-
talk and we'll get
Okay.
things on track where you can more or less do the work, keep it in the same lines that it's in, but just make it structurally sound for the area that it's in.
Great. Thank you.
All right.
So,
Okay.
should I call you in, next week? Or?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
great.
let's do that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay. Now we got some minutes.
Now,
catch
do you
his
know
name
if
if
Kelly
you
was able to make the changes I recommended?
Yes, she did.
Okay.
Excuse me, what was
Okay, first set of minutes.
his last name?
Orwig.
Orwig.
Was that
And
11
the
Rush Marsh?
11 Broadmarsh Ave, that's in, near Swift's Beach, kind of.
Okay. All right. Minutes for November 15th, 2017.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes for 11/15/17.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay. We also have minutes for
Can I
this.
ask what the vote was?
What the vote?
Which one was the one I was not
11:15.
here?
You were
I
not,
wasn't here
you
for
were
one
not
of
here
them.
for this one.
Okay, then
Okay, yeah,
so do
Well-
I abstain or just say no?
You abstain.
Okay.
she doesn't have to.
Not really.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you don't
But she
have to
can't be in-
abstain.
But she can't be in favor of it.
Why not?
She wasn't here to approve the minutes.
Anytime the board's doing minutes, you don't have to have been present at the meeting to vote on minutes, just so you know that. You don't have to vote if you weren't there. You can abstain or whatever, but if you want to approve the minutes or vote yes, then that's okay.
You wish to abstain?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 1. Okay. December 20th, 2017. Sandy, you weren't there.
I was not here. And she made the changes I recommended.
How can you recommend changes if you weren't there?
Yeah.
Mark Cambodi, no. Mark Cambodi was not
Hopefully you're
Mark was not identified as an associate, and I think I wanted to I want Donald's name on there as an associate.
Okay, motion to accept as amended.
No, they amended it before they got it.
All right, motion to accept.
Joe's motion,
Second.
seconded by Alicia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
1 abstention. 501. Okay. Unless David has anything else, or
We have three
you guys?
reappointments.
Really?
Yes. Myself, Mary, and Mark are up in 2018, and I would like to get a letter of support of the reappointments done and into the selectmen before the end of June. So I'd like to bring it up now since it's on the agenda.
Okay.
Will Mark be able to join us soon? I know
He's been
running around
busy.
like crazy now.
Yeah,
Who,
he's,
Mark Carboni?
yeah.
But he stepped back as an associate. though,
Yes.
Right,
So-
yeah, so,
We
you
have
know,
no one chomping at the bit to
Yeah, there's
fill it.
nobody,
he can be reappointed. Again, his schedule is
yeah.
probably not such that he's gonna make a lot of appearances, to be honest with you, but it's,
Is that Rob? No.
no, this is Mark Carboni. So Sandy, in terms of a letter, are you looking for a letter from the commission
Yes,
with
I am.
Kenny's signature?
Yes, to go to the selectmen saying that we support the reappointment of these people and list the 3 people.
Okay, so what I'll do is I can draft that up with Kenny's name on it, and then he can sign it.
Yes. And so Mary and I have to send letters to the selectmen's office indicating that we would like to be considered for reappointment. So we need a letter from the individuals and a letter from the commission.
So are you going to make that motion?
I'll make a motion that we, that our chair send a letter to the selectmen that we support the reappointment of Sandy Slavin, Mary Taggart, and Mark Carboni.
Okay, Sandy's motion,
Second.
seconded by Jim and Joe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Well, they both seconded it.
I did have
Okay.
one more thing just to bring up. Well, 2 things, actually. Some of you have heard about this already, some of you haven't. We've had a new violation that recently occurred off of Depot Street. It's like right on the edge of the railroad tracks in Depot Street. There's some property that sort of goes behind the gravel operation that's being done there.
The old
Behind the
Hurley.
fence?
Yes.
Hurley place.
It's like a chain link fence that they put up, a gate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they went in and more or less cleared the land back there right up to the edge of the wetlands with no permit. So
Slap them.
I issued them an enforcement order and requested they attend the next meeting, so I just wanted to make you aware of that. And then I also had another violation with regards to one of the subdivisions, one of the Makepeace subdivisions, not Crane Landing, but the other one that's further
Resident.
south.
Residents of Tyhonet Pond, I think is what they call it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what officially it's called, but in any event, a number of the homeowners who have frontage or their houses are on the pond side of the subdivision have done work within the buffer zone with no permits. So that property technically is common land for all these homeowners, so it's an association chunk of land. So it's not part of their individual house lot. So I issued an enforcement order to the association, because basically all their lots end, and then you have this community property that goes to the pond. So of course, they're gonna wanna go to the pond and do stuff, so that's what a lot of them have done.
They were burning a lot of brush there yesterday.
How could they?
They were. I saw
It
the
was the
smoke.
fire department.
Oh, they were
cook
probably
fire.
busy.
Can't burn after May 1st.
No, it
There's
was
a
supposed to be
campfire.
all done. That was one hell of a cook fire.
What they do.
Trying to get a row of rocks in there, huh?
Yeah, well,
So is this being used by the house owners that are right there, or is this being used by everybody?
it's more or less being used by the
Association.
No,
individual homeowners in the
The
sections where their houses
homeowners
are.
used it, that's
They're-
exactly.
Has that been built
It's
out
quite
where
a
they
difference.
actually are, the homeowners are actually the association now?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, Crane
Yeah.
Landing isn't yet.
So I met with these homeowners, because what happened was, some of the homeowners were upset with the other homeowners who
Right.
were doing the violation.
Right.
So they called me up and said, geez, can you come? We need to ask you some questions. We want to know what we can do and what we can't do. So I went and met with them, and it turns out even some of those people were doing stuff that really they shouldn't have been doing.
They're ratting them own
But they were fine with it. We discussed everything. They're clear on what is okay and what isn't, but I told them, because of the fact that all this stuff has been done, I have to issue an enforcement order. And you guys are all gonna have to possibly do individual things to correct your little section of the site. And so they were okay with that. And so they'll be coming in to the next meeting, or that's what I put in the enforcement order, so.
All right, can we have some delineation on that no-work area?
In terms of where the line should be, yeah, it's 100 feet back from the wetlands, and they can't do anything without a
That's-
permit.
That's why, like, all the other new developments recently, well, the last couple of years, we've been having them put boulders.
Yeah,
You know, so you can do a line of sight and see, well, you can't do anything after that point.
right, yeah, so I think now that we've had the discussion, they'll be a lot more cognizant of it. It's just that some of them weren't sure what they could do, others were.
What were they doing there? What was
They've
the-
cleared trails, they've cleared underbrush. One guy even put a big pump down the pond so he could suck water to irrigate his land with. So, you know.
Those water
there's-
rates are really high, you know?
Yeah, so there's a few different sorts of things that have gone on. But, you know, they'll come in and discuss it, and we can go from there, but
You gonna have a list for us?
You're
yes.
fining each person?
Well, it's an association. I told them the association as a whole was subject to fines if there were violations on the association land. Because again, some of them were doing some work, some of them were doing no work, and some of them were doing more work. So, but they're all tied to the
I would
association.
suggest that this violation go against the association, because that gets everybody's attention.
Exactly.
And for each violation?
Yep.
Yeah.
Clearing a trail, cutting underbrush, putting a pump of water?
I think this is going to bring a great deal of animosity between them.
Should they
and
get across?
I don't, well, I don't know, you know, but,
There is
Do
animosity.
you let them go,
already.
do you let them get nothing?
no, I'm not saying that, Sandy. All I'm just saying is, are we gonna be there? You know, I don't want our job to be to stir the pot. I mean, it's fine, you know, I do think there has to be something done and something said, but it's not for us to say, you know, Peter says, well, you know, Mary did those trails. I've never gone on those trails.
That's why I say you go after the association, you let them do their own babysitting.
Yeah, and I think that's the way it really has to be anyway, because it is the association property, and they're all gonna be tied to whatever things have to be fixed and whatever fines there are, they're all gonna have to deal with it. So that's that particular site. We also are gonna have, at least one that's in the Crane Landing site where an individual on his own lot, because on that subdivision, there's not a common space between their lots and the pond.
They go
Their
down
lots
to the
go right to
pond.
the
Right.
water. There's one specific lot where the guy really did a significant amount of clearing, which he shouldn't have done. He has no permit, so that's another one that I'll be bringing in the near
I
future.
wonder if that's my cousin.
Package store.
I don't
I like
know.
having the pump out of the pond, though.
Very clever.
Yeah, well, he was, I guess, you know, not wanting to pay the water bill, and then he even says he tried to have a well put in, because I said to him, why didn't you just have a well put in on your lot for irrigation? He's like, I tried that, and they couldn't get water, you know, and I was like,
They couldn't get
I
water.
was like, I don't know about that, and he's like, well, I'm telling you, I paid money, and they drilled, and they couldn't get sufficient water, so I decided to go with this other option.
I think I've heard about this guy before.
Yeah,
Basically because Makepeace can, or the bog owners can pull water out of the river and stuff like that. That's, it's almost like, thumb
Yeah,
on the nose.
but, in Makepeace's defense, Makepeace pays a permit fee,
Mhm.
because when I had my 6-acre bog, it was the same thing, I paid a couple $100 a year.
yeah,
Just
the bog owners have to get a permit from the state, which is called a water withdrawal permit, and they pay the state so much every year, and bang, plus they have the exemption, like Joe said, anyway. But they still do have that other permit they're supposed to get from the state. But this individual did tell me, and I haven't had a chance to speak with Makepeace directly, but he did say that Makepeace told him that it was okay to do this. And I haven't heard that from Makepeace yet, so I can't verify or
think you
deny
Let me
that.
ask you, is this pond surrounded by the HOA people, or is the pond half still Makepeace property? I know wasn't it just recently moved over from Makepeace to the HOA?
Well, the HOA land is just land, it doesn't include the pond.
Okay.
Makepeace still owns the entire water body as a whole. So the HOA land is just a chunk of land from the edge of the pond back X number of feet, and then their lots start from there. So, yeah, the HOA land is now just their land. It's not owned by Makepeace in any way anymore, but it does not include the actual pond. So, anywho,
Is that
that's the scoop.
Any more good news?
The only other thing I was gonna say is, looking forward to meeting dates. July 4th this year is on a Wednesday, on a meeting date, so we will not have a meeting on July 4th.
Oh, shucks.
I declare. The chair declares.
Well, I won't be here, whether you have one or not.
No, I'm not gonna be here either, so.
Historical Society has that big antique fair and car show on the 4th. Well, I make a motion we
Yeah, I'm gonna try
close.
to make that one this year.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Jim and Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Keep
Thank
it-
you, you can shut it down.